iiiYansaje Muse, and I'm here to give you a brief overview of some things that we can expect when the planet Uranus moves into the house of Gemini on Monday, July 7th, 2025. But first, let's give an overview on what's going on in the quasars altogether. For starters, 2025 is a 9 year, and 9 is the number of intense transformations. So, with that being the overruling energy of the year of 2025, all of the planetary alignments are going to be assisting us in the transformation that either brings us blessings or lessons, depending on our level of alignment or misalignment. I find it interesting that this planet is moving into Gemini on a Monday, and Monday is the day that regulates the emotions, as Monday is Monday because it's the day of the moon or Moonday. And the moon regulates our emotionals, our tides, if that makes sense. And then you have a double seven energy, July 7, 7 and 7 energy, and that comes with a daily numerology of a number 5. So, this is a starburst of energy that deals with our emotional selves, our emotional intelligence, and how we align our emotions with our overall spiritual well being. Now, it's interesting that Uranus is the planet that rules the zodiac house Aquarius, and in November of last year, we went into Aquarius age. So Uranus entering Gemini is actually bringing about a lot of the sudden changes, a lot of the increases in intuition, a lot of sudden shakeups that are going to lead to either a deeper alignment with our Aquarian age selves or a further misalignment for those of us that may refuse to do the self work. Gemini is the house of intellect, communication, and duality. And a little hidden fact, Uranus is actually the higher octave of Mercury. So intellect and intuition are going to fuse together like never before. Now, what does this mean for the collective of humanity as far as our overall spiritual well being? Uranus entering Gemini is going to bring about a lot of challenges in what we believe spiritually, because Aquarius is the house of what you could say spiritual rebellion. So, a lot of things are going to happen that are going to make each and every one of us individually and collectively question, deeply examine our connections with the heavens. This is going to touch on our religious beliefs. This is going to touch on leaving behind outdated beliefs to embrace new ones. This is also going to challenge us and where we stand in our own personal divinities. And as we can see, it's already happening if you really want to be honest about it, with things happening in the church, things happening with religion, certain movies being made that are opening up a lot of dialogue about deeper levels of spirituality that the previous decades of human existence have either overlooked, swept under the rug, or did not speak about because it was considered, such topics are considered taboo. With Uranus moving into Gemini, into the space of duality, this is going to contribute more to what humanity has already been speaking of in terms of the Great Divide. And what is the Great Divide? The Great Divide is those of us that have chosen to live in divine alignment will have a far more defined separation from those that have chosen to stick to 3D ways of living or lower vibrational ways of living. Because it's interesting, we use the word spiritual a lot, but spiritual doesn't always mean divine or aligned, as lower vibrational entities are spirits too. So there will be a direct fork in the road, and we will see many taking the path to divinity on extreme levels, but we will also see people taking the lower vibrational road on extreme levels. So Uranus entering Gemini is going to speak very greatly about who we are as spirits and souls before human beings. And in massive collective numbers, many people are going to be choosing their sides. And this is going to cause challenges in relationships, in workplaces, and family dynamics all the way across the board. So humanity just needs to be ready for that because it isn't always a bad thing. Because those of us that have chosen the aligned perspective of Uranus and Gemini will experience many blessings, will experience sudden changes that will lead to financial upsweeps, changes in jobs, and actually being put in positions that are deeper aligned with our higher purposes. But on the other side of that Gemini duality, Uranus and Gemini is going to mail back many karmic packages that, of course, karmic people do not have to sign for. So those that are striving to live aligned must be cautious and must be aware of those who will try to latch onto them in an attempt to escape their karma. So there will be a lot of that going on as well because Gemini is, about intellect. And sometimes intellect can be a challenge to overall spirituality. And I say that because spiritual intelligence far supersedes human logic. But it's interesting that Uranus moving into Gemini is happening because Gemini is ruled by the planet Mercury. And Mercury is the planet of intellect and communication. And Uranus is Mercury's higher octave. So this is really going to elevate our ways of spiritual, emotional, and even earthly intelligence. Humanity itself is on an elevation, and Uranus in Gemini is definitely going to bring about a course of events that are going to skyrocket that. And it's going to, as the Bible says, separate the wheat from the chaff. Who's really studying spirituality as a novice, as a hobby, because it's trending, and who, on the other hand, is really about that life. Uranus and Gemini is definitely going to bring a lot of exposure to that. There are two main zodiac houses that are going to be affected by Uranus and Gemini the most. Needless to say, people born in the sign of Gemini and people born in the sign of Aquarius, as Gemini is the third zodiac house and Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius. And we just went into the Aquarian age. So this is going to bring about a lot of Aquarian age energy. So many people that are close to Aquarius and Gemini people, hold on to your hats because you're definitely going to see some immense changes either for the alignment or for the misalignment, depending on where their level of consciousness is. But for everyone, for all 12 zodiac houses, you can always get a deeper perspective on how Uranus's move into Gemini is going to affect you personally by breaking out your natal chart and studying yourself. Look at your placements of Uranus, look at your placements of Gemini, and connect it to how Uranus and Gemini is going to fit into your personal life. Astrology has always been a way that we have aligned with the heavens and how we align the course of events on earth with divine alignment, divine timing, and overall spiritual well being. And interestingly, later on this year in September, Uranus will be going into retrograde in the house of Gemini on September 6th. So it seems that throughout this year, Uranus has a lot of work to do in the house of duality, in the house of intellect, and in the house of communication. And when higher spiritual intelligence moves into the house of intellect, that means that our sense of divine intelligence is going to change all the way across the board. We're going to have different viewpoints on life altogether. A lot of old patterns and outdated beliefs, especially in terms of spirituality, are going to be done away with. And we have to be prepared for those that are going to try to keep traditions going that are not good for humanity. So these are some things that we can look out for when Uranus moves into Gemini. And I will strongly encourage everyone to break out your natal chart, set your higher alignment goals, and how you would like this Uranus and Gemini to help you on your personal journey. Thank you for listening to this. I am iiiYansaje Muse, and this is my brief report on what we can expect when Uranus moves into Gemini on Monday, July 7th, 2025. Ashe.